Good morning, everyone. I am Lashika Thomas. I am the CSU Wellbeing Liaison, and I'm excited for y'all to join us today. We have Miss Valerie. She is our registered dietitian, and she's going to cook up some wonderful summer veggies and also give us some outstanding recipes. If you do not have those already, please check the chat. I will be putting those in there, and they were also on our website. But we've got something new today as well. We will be doing some quizzes throughout, just a couple questions. And the winner will get this amazing basket that Miss Valerie has put together with all this cool swag. So if you think you know the answer, just put it in the chat, and then I will be checking those. And our winner, we will let them know on today's call so that you can give us your address because Miss Valerie is going to send you that basket. So without further ado, I will pass it along to Miss Valerie. But just a side note, if you would like her video to be extra big on your screen, there are 3 dots on her little square window. If you click on that 3 dot and do a drop down, you'll see something that says pin video. And if you click on that, that will allow her video, little square, to be the main point on your screen. All right, thanks. Take it away, Miss Valerie.
Hey, good morning and welcome to another Wellness Wednesday webinar. I'm so excited to be with you again, and thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. And many thanks to Lashika for doing all the marketing and the background of this, the communication of these webinars, and to CSU for sponsoring it. So today we are going to bring in the best of the summer vegetables, and we're going to be cooking with those. We're going to be transitioning into these summer vegetables because that's what you do in summer, right? So you're not only transitioning your clothes, like going from the boots to the sandals, which is always good. We're going to be transitioning into hot weather, and we're going to be exposed to warmer temperatures and sun on our skin. So we need to transition our foods and take full advantage of all these summer fruits and vegetables. So this is a time to think about not only hydration, but the nutrients that are available in these fruits and vegetables that nourish our skin. And these recipes today are going to feature those. So one of them is tomatoes, which you're going to see in several of the recipes where we are cooking the lasagnas. Tomatoes are chock full of vitamin C, also known as ascorbic acid. And we know that that has a beneficial effect on the skin. We're also going to be cooking with zucchini in our vegetable lasagna. And zucchini is teeming with something called pectin. And pectin is a slow-moving fiber that acts as sort of like a gel in your system. It slows the breakdown of carbohydrates, and this helps prevent the spiking of blood glucose. One of the other things we're going to be doing today is we're going to be cooking with Greek yogurt, so a Greek creamy dairy protein, and we're going to be pairing that with dark cherries and dark chocolate. This particular recipe is not only delicious, but it's also can be packed for the beach. So it's either dessert or a snack, and it travels really well because it is a frozen dessert. So as Lashika mentioned, you've got the recipes in the chat box. I hope that you'll follow along with me. And for those of you who are going to be cooking along with me, the notes are in there for what to be prepared for. So let's get started. The first recipe is going to be the sweet and fresh corn salad. So this dish is going to make your mouth water. It's packed full of nutrients and really, really good flavors. One of the best things about corn, especially for this time of year, the fresh corn that we get, is that it's actually packed with 2 eye-friendly antioxidants. One of them is called lutein, and the other one is called zeaxanthin, or zeaxanthin. Sometimes it's called like that. But so Not only is it really sweet tasting, but remember, it's got 2 eye-friendly antioxidants in it. You might want to remember that. If you're cooking along with me, you will have prepared the fresh corn using the corn kernels right here. This is really going to add a lot of sweetness to this salad. This corn is really, really sweet this time of the year, so it's a great way to incorporate all that goodness. What I thought I might do is actually demonstrate also how to take the kernels off of the cob, because sometimes this can be a little bit of a disconcerting task. So I'm going to show you how to do that first. What we want to do is make this really safe. So you can, here's one way to do it. There are several ways to do it. I'm going to pull this back just a bit. See this. So what you want to think about is you want to secure the bowl, right? You don't want the bowl slipping because you don't want the knife to slip either. So this is just a jar opener and it's slip proof. So I'm going to place the bowl on top of that so that it doesn't slip. You can also use a hand towel if you want to and just place it around the bowl like that. You might want to wet the towel so it doesn't slip, just so we keep the bowl secure. Now we're going to cut the kernels off of the cob and we're going to go in a downward motion. And as we do, you might see juice flow out as well, which is great because that juice is really sweet and it's a milky starch that you can add right back to the mixture. It also will add a little bit of thickness. So depending on the sweetness of your corn, you'll see how much you get out. So we're actually going to just hold the corn kernel, the left hand, or right if you're the other way around, the pointed side down into the bowl like that. And we're simply going to cut the kernels off and let them go into the bowl. If you try this on a cutting board, you might find that you have kernels all over your kitchen and a mess. So this is a way to do it that keeps the kernels intact and safe. We're just going to cut all the way down. Might still have a few little escapees, but that's okay. Okay, so now we've got that, and that can just be discarded. All right, I'm going to put those little escapees back in here. All right, and then I'm going to just simply add this corn into the ones that we've already prepared. All right, from this point, we're going to just start adding the rest of our ingredients to this. So we're going to add the cider vinegar and the olive oil. The cider vinegar really gives it a ping. One of the great things about corn is that it loves acrid or acidic flavors with it. So you could also use lemon juice if you want to. And we're also going to add the salt and pepper to your taste. And the red onion. This is a great flavor with this. And lastly, we're going to add basil. I don't know if you know, I didn't know this, but basil is actually part of the mint family, which is interesting to me. And it pairs beautifully with this salad, along with adding a lot of antioxidants from this deep green color that we have here. So I'm going to mix that up. Get my notes here closer. The smell of this, I wish you could smell this. It smells fabulous. So fresh. It's really, really teeming with a lot of nutrients, sweetness, and a lot of color. When I was making this salad, it was actually a bit warm. And I tasted it at that point. And the flavors were really, really nice, really nice. but you could serve it room temperature or you can serve it chilled. So that's up to you to be, whatever your preference is to be able to do that. But it was quite good when it was just off the corner. All right, so let's talk about ways to make some variations on this salad. Because corn is such a good grain to work with, it's really versatile. You can mix and match it with different things. So as I said, it likes acrid or acidic type of flavors. So one thing you might want to do is to add feta cheese to this. That would be a Mediterranean spark to the dish. The other idea would be to add something like smoked paprika to it if you want a Spanish influence on it, so you could actually change the tones of the recipe that way. And then think about your own creations, something like jalapeno peppers, which we love here in the South. That would also add another spark to it. You can add oregano, other herbs and spices to it. It's up to you, but the base of this salad, to remember about this is, the takeaway is use corn, okay? Keep it, it's got lots of good antioxidants in it. It's a great vegetable to use during the summertime. It's fresh, you can eat it hot, you can eat it cold. So there's your takeaway on my corn salad. All right, the next thing we're going to be putting together is we're gonna do the meat lasagna first. So I'm going to swap out ingredients and bring over the meat lasagna.
All right, while Miss Valerie is getting ready for the next fun recipe, I hope y'all were paying attention because here comes some quiz questions. Okay, the first one, what nutrient is in zucchini that acts as a fibrous gel to help lower blood glucose? You think you know the answer for that? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Oh. We have some people paying attention. Love it. Okay, here's our second question. What two eye-friendly antioxidants are in corn? What two eye-friendly antioxidants are in corn? That might have stumped him, Miss Valerie. That might have got him.
I'll give
no
you a hint.
Googling, Lauren said, no Googling.
One begins with an L and one begins with a Z.
An L and a Z. Okay. Our next question that she's already given us the answer to, what plant family does basil belong to? Yes. Got some great answers in here. So the answers to our first question was, pectin, and then mint was our last one. I'm not going to tell you about that second question because I haven't seen any right answers yet. So I'll keep thinking about it. Maybe Miss Valerie give you a hint a little later to give you some help. But we'll turn it back over to her.
Okay. All right. So this recipe is the layered meat lasagna. So if you're following along with me, you will have already browned the meat. And we're going to be using the non-baked noodles, so you didn't have to do anything with that. But you will have mixed the cheeses together too, the ricotta cheese, the mozzarella cheese, and the Parmesan cheese. So this is a creamy dish. It's a standard dish, but it's a great summertime dish as well because it incorporates a lot of the nutrients that we were just talking about, especially with the tomatoes. This recipe uses a marinara sauce, and I've used just a jarred marinara sauce. Marinara sauce is the basic of red sauces, and it's got a really long history associated with it. We think that it came around maybe the 1600s, and it was when tomatoes came into Europe that you began to see this marinara sauce come about. The ideology of marinara is Italian, and it actually means sailor-like. And so that's the connection. We do think that the sailors may have had this marinara sauce or made this marinara sauce while they were on the ships, because it has just basically four I think 4 ingredients to it. Tomatoes, olive oil, herbs, and onion. And that's basically it. So if you think about traveling on a ship, this was probably a really good sauce and a versatile sauce to use because it's easy to make and all the ingredients travel really well. So there's a little history on that. So just like the 1600s, we're going to dig into a nutrient-dense dish as well right now. So if you're cooking along with me, you will have prepared the baking dish. I'll put this around this way so you can see it. And to the bottom of this dish, we're going to add a couple of ladles of the marinara sauce. This will just make sure that these no-bake lasagna noodles have some moisture in the bottom. So we're just going to spread that around. This is really, really rich. The smell of this is just really fragrant with tomatoes. You can tell how deep and intense it is. Okay, and on top of that sauce, we're going to layer 3 lasagna sheets. Okay, and then on top of that, we're going to add some of the ricotta cheese. I'm going to prepare this first, and then I'm going to go back to something else. So I want to show you, if you've not already done this, to go ahead and do this. I'm going to snip this bag because this is an easy way to add this cheese. And the reason why we do this is because if you try to smear this mixture on here, it's going to end up sort of gloppy. It's a little bit difficult to do that. So we're just going to, when we use this, we're going to snip the end of this bag. This is just a Ziploc bag. That's all this is. And I'm just going to snip the end of it, and I'll show you how we're going to use that. Okay, we're going to add one more layer of this sauce on top. Smear that all around in there. And don't be too caught up with how these layers go in. If you want the cheese layered first, that's fine. If you want the meat layered first, it really does not matter very much at all what the order is. So I'm going to add a zigzag layer of this cheese. I'm just going to hold it like you would a piping bag, and it's going to come out just like that. Hold it very close to the noodles, to the pan. And I'm just simply going to add a zigzag layer. You can make your own pattern if you want to. It doesn't have to be zigzag. When this cooks, this will spread out, so don't worry about it looking like that. It will melt and spread out. And to this, I'm going to add the ground beef on top. You can also use ground chicken in this recipe if you wanted to. You can use ground pork. Just make sure that they're all cooked. So I'm going to add about a half a portion of that in here. All right, and then I'm going to add some of the mozzarella cheese on top of that for more creaminess. All right, and then we're going to start over again. We're going to add 3 more layers, three more lasagna sheets on top of that. And this time when you put these in, I want you to press down slightly. And this just helps keep the formation in the pan, right? And then we're going to start over again. We're going to put another layer of the tomato sauce. About a cup is what I'm using each time. This ladle is about a half a cup. I'm going to spread that all around. And I'm going to add the cheese again. Add another layer of that. Right on top of there like that. Zigzag. All right, and I'm going to add meat. Okay, so that's finished with that. And then I'm going to add the cheese. Sprinkle a little bit of that. All right, as you can see, this dish is building, and this is a lot of food. It's a very dense dish, so I would probably feed a 13 by 9-inch pan will probably feed 6 to 8 people. When that would be really generous servings. All right, we're going to add one last layer of the noodles, no-bake noodles. We're going to press those down just like we did before. We're going to add a layer of the sauce, the last layer of the sauce right on top. Swirl that all around. All right, wow. That looks really nice. You could do variations of this with the sauce as well. If you have your own kind of sauce that you want to make, maybe it's a roasted red pepper sauce, or maybe even a white sauce that you wanted to use. This is a great dish to do that with because all of these flavors really complement one another and they work really well. All right, so lastly, we're going to add a final layer of this ricotta cheese, and I'm just going to squeeze it a little bit more and have it come out. I have to tell you, I didn't know about this tip, but I have a younger sister who's a chef, and she told me to do this because I was having trouble spreading this out, and she said, yeah, just put it in a plastic bag. So thanks, Teresa. All right, and to that, we're going to add the last sprinkle of cheese on top. Okay, so let me warn you, when this cooks in the oven, this is going to waft throughout the house, and you will have this wonderful smell coming of creamy cheeses and tomato and the pasta and the beef. It will be wonderful when it cooks. So you'll be ready to eat. There's no doubt you'll have fun with this. But let's talk about something else that you could do with this before we're ready to finish it. You can get creative with this as well, and you can add other ingredients to it. Things like grated carrots. If you've got carrots in the refrigerator, you don't know what to do with them, grate them and put them in the sauce. You can, or you can even layer them along on top of the noodles or in between with the meat. But think about other ways to add ingredients to this. This is a great one. If you have leftover tomatoes and you need to use them, or you think they might be bad or go sort of slightly bad, maybe not great for sandwiches, just slice them and layer them in here. They're really good. It's a good way to add extra tomatoes as well. Another thought is when you're making the sauce, add pesto to it. Pesto is made from pignola nuts, and basil. You can make it with other herbs as well. This particular one is basil and pignola or pine nuts. This is a wonderful way to add a different type of sort of an earthy taste to the lasagna as well. So think about that, and you create your own. Okay, so at this point, the lasagna is ready to go in the oven at around 350 degrees, maybe 30, 45 minutes. You're gonna have to judge that with your own oven. But what you want to do is you want to cover this before you bake it. And we're going to actually tint this tin foil. And the reason why we're doing that is because we don't want the tin foil touching the tomato sauce. Tin foil and tomatoes don't really go together all that well. They sort of do a chemical reaction in that. So we're just going to give this a thump. We're going to thump it a couple of times. Like that, it's kind of noisy. And we'll put it around the pan. And this just keeps the tin foil off of the tomato sauce for the dish. Now, a couple of other hints with this. At this point, if you were making it like we did right now, you could put it directly in the oven and it would have the normal cooking time of maybe about 40 minutes, 30, 40 minutes. You'll just have to keep checking it to see. But you are going to remove the tin foil about 5 minutes before the final cooking time to let the cheese on the top brown. You could also use your broiler, just have to watch it carefully and brown the cheese if you want to be able to do that. This dish is also really versatile because you actually could prepare it like this and then put it into the refrigerator and keep it at 40 degrees. And if you wanted to cook it the next day, it's ready to go. However, when you take this dish out of the refrigerator, it's going to be cold. The ingredients are going to be cold. So your cooking time will be longer with that. That's one thing you can do with this. If you want to freeze this dish, which is a great thing to do as well, don't cook it. Prepare it in a dish like this, something that you can put into the oven, cover it, and then keep it in the freezer. When you're ready to pull it out the day before and let it defrost in the refrigerator overnight, certainly at 40 degrees. And then you can cook it the next day. But again, this is going to be a cold dish, so you're going to have to increase the baking time on it. All right, so the next dish we're going to move to is we're going green, and we're going to go plant forward. We're going to do a very similar recipe, but this recipe incorporates a lot of the 2 or 3 or 4 of the fruits and vegetables for summer: zucchini, spinach, onions, and the tomatoes in the marinara sauce. So I'm going to swap out ingredients and I'll be right back. Oh, wait, I want to show you the finished version.
I was going to say, Miss Valerie, let's see what it looks like.
I forgot. Okay, here we go. This is the finished version. This is a 9.5 by 13 dish, and it's really heavy. This is a very dense dish. So when you're making it, make sure you've got a crowd. You can always freeze it, but that's the finished product right there. Okay, on to the next one.
All right, so while we are letting Miss Valerie get set up for our next one, I did propose a couple questions in the chat. One of them was, do you use glass containers or do you use silver pans? Has anybody felt that it was different when they cooked lasagna in a glass container versus a silver pan? Any thoughts? You can put them in the chat. And also question about this tinting the foil. How many of y'all have done that over your lasagna? As I know I've never done that, and I get the cheese and everything gets stuck on my aluminum foil. So I will be using that method from here on out, but tinting and then thumping it. I mean, that was a great demonstration, Miss Valerie.
All right, we've got a lot of ingredients going on with this one. Just swap this out. But if you are cooking along with me, you will have already prepared the marinara sauce for this with the zucchini and the spinach. And I'm sure if you've already done this, the smell of that coming through the house, if you're not hungry doing that, you will be. Okay, so this dish is interesting. We're going to be using these whole grain lasagna noodles. Now, these were cooked ahead of time, so if you're cooking along with me, you would have already done that as well. And I added a hint in here about cooking these because they're sometimes very difficult to handle when they're cooking. But this is a way to make it a little bit easier. So what I said was to, when you're cooking the lasagna noodles, go ahead and spray a baking sheet like this, or just a piece of plastic wrap if you want to, spray it with a cooking oil. And once you've drained the noodles, take the noodles out with a pair of tongs and then put them on the baking dish like I've done here. Spray them very lightly with the cooking spray and then add the next layer of the noodles. So this, I just did this in a crisscross version right here so I could keep the noodles separate. The only reason we're doing that is just because it makes them easier to handle. A lot of times they'll stick together or they'll stick to your hands and tear. So this just makes it a little bit easier to put together. All right, so we're going to be using 9 sheets of this lasagna. Get my notes here. And we're going to follow the same procedure as we did before. So if you're cooking along with me, you will have already sprayed this glass baking dish, which I heard you just talking about. And we're simply going to, oops, I forgot the sauce. Let's do the sauce first. We're gonna do the same thing as we did before. We're gonna add, this is the sauce that we've cooked. You can see it's chock full of zucchini. So we're gonna add a couple of scoops of that on the bottom. All right. This also is a very hearty dish as well. Okay, to that we're going to add the 3 sheets of the lasagna noodles, and we're going to press them down just slightly, just to keep them stable in the pan. And on top of that, we're going to add again another layer of the sauce. If you find when you're cooking this that you have sauce left over, don't throw it away. Just freeze it and keep it. And you can always add it back to another spaghetti sauce if you're using it. You could spread it on pizza as the layer before you put other things on the pizza. So don't throw it away. And sometimes baking dishes are a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, so you might have a little bit of product left over. That's what makes this dish so versatile, is because you can freeze these items if you don't use everything. Okay, we're going to do the same thing as we did before. So if you're cooking along with me, you will have already put the ricotta cheese in the bag. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to layer.
Valerie, while you're doing that, can you talk about how you made the sauce? We have a question in there in the chat.
Sure. Okay, the sauce was sauteed onions, and then the zucchini and the spinach. I'll tell you how I cook the spinach though. I don't like to use a lot of oil while I'm cooking, because actually you don't really need it. You can actually cook spinach without any oil in the pan. So here's what I did. I just turned it on a very low heat. I added I think it's about 10 ounces of the spinach, and I just slowly stirred it and let it cook. You'll see it shrink, and then I added that to a strainer. And then I let it just sit in the strainer for a while so that the liquid could begin to drip out. The spinach has a lot of water in it, and if you don't cook it beforehand, you might find that it's a bit, the spaghetti, that your lasagna is a bit runny. You know, it's not going to affect the taste, but it might affect the way that it actually looks in the pan. So once I had squeezed all the water out of that spinach, I put it back into the mixture with the zucchini and the onions. And then I added the marinara sauce, and I believe some salt and pepper. That's it. It's a really quick, easy dish to make. You don't have to cook the zucchini if you don't want to. If you want the dish to be crunchy, leave the zucchini fresh. It's okay. It will cook some in the oven beneath these layers. but you don't have to do that. So there's another cooking tip in case you just don't feel like cooking the lasagna. I mean the zucchini. All right, so I'm going to add another layer there to that. We're going to sprinkle it with some mozzarella cheese. All right, we're now ready for another layer. Remember, this will spread out in the pan and cook, so don't worry about it if it looks like it's in little logs on in your pan. It's okay. We're going to add another layer of sauce to this. One of the things that you could do to this recipe, if you wanted to use a different type of cheese, is that you could use cottage cheese, a skim or a low fat cottage cheese. If you want to just reduce the calorie content a little bit, cottage cheese will work fine in this recipe as well. Okay, I'm going to move that around like that, and then we're going to add another layer of the ricotta. Okay, and the mozzarella. And then finally, our last layer of noodles. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to press just slightly. And then back to the sauce for the final. All right. You could also vary the squash in this dish. If you wanted to have to use yellow squash, that's a really good idea. You could substitute yellow squash. You could use half and half yellow and green squash, just to give it some variation. All right, and then we're going to add, oh, lost my dish down. Last of the mozzarella cheese on top. All right, this is a packed plant-forward dish, teeming with pectin because we used the zucchini, loaded with antioxidants, full of vitamin C. So you can't go wrong with this dish. All right. Let's talk about another variation. Especially if you wanted to keep it plant forward. You could also add white beans to it. You can layer the white beans in between the layers if you want to, or you could also add it to the sauce. Think about other beans to use. Garbanzo beans are another great addition to this to make it more plant forward. So you think about ways to incorporate all these summertime vegetables and fruits, and if you need to use the canned fruit vegetables, that's perfectly fine. But these two lasagnas allow you to be very creative and let the kids help. You know, they may have some fun ingredients that they want to try and add. This is a perfect way to do that. Okay, the same thing you would do with this dish. You would thump the foil and then cover the dish, cook it covered for 30-40 minutes. Uncover it, let the cheese brown on the top, or use the broiler to brown the cheese, and then let it rest about 15 minutes before serving it, just so it has time to settle in the pan. So I will show you the finished version.
All right, Ms. Valerie, while you're getting the finished products, we did have a question come in. How many zucchinis did you use for this dish?
I used about 6 zucchinis. You can use more or less if you want to, because zucchini differs in the size. You might, if you buy 6 of them medium size, I think you'll be just fine. If it's smaller than that, you might need 7 of the smaller ones. I mean, we're not taking the skin off of these, so the only thing you're doing is cutting off the ends, and you're using the entire product, which is another great thing about this recipe. So there's almost no waste in it as far as the vegetable is concerned. That's a great question. Is there another one? All right, let me show you the product. I made this one in a glass dish, so it's really heavy. So I made them in both, and the times between the metal dish and the glass dish, they will vary in the oven. So just keep an eye on it. Put a thermometer in it if you want to, around 170, 165 at least. You'll get a good temperature on it, and then it will brown. All right. Okay, the final recipe is for dark chocolate and cherry lovers. We are going to combine these with Greek yogurt. It just makes a fabulous dessert. So for all you cherry aficionados out there, July is your time to come alive, and you know that because most people who love cherries really look forward to July so they can really enjoy this humble little fruit. So I'm going to switch ingredients and be right back with this cherry chocolate dessert.
All right, while Miss Valerie gets set up, we have a question. So what type, this is for the audience now, to get this lovely swag bag. What type of cheese could be substituted in the lasagna recipes to help reduce the calories? Put your answers. Oh man, they were quick. Miss Valerie, they were fast. They got it. Cottage cheese, cottage cheese. So just in case you didn't know, this is National Lasagna Day is July 29th. I repeat that. National Lasagna Day is July 29th. So there's no excuse not to celebrate with your own creation because you've got two versions here that you just learned. So if you do decide to cook a lasagna on that day, share a picture with me and I'll put it up on our website and see what kind of lasagna you made. I think Miss Valerie is ready.
All right, for you cherry aficionados out there, and if there are any of you, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. Like I said, July is your time of the month. So whatever cherries you choose, whether it's the red cherries that we're going to be using today or these varietal cherries, ultimately it's going to end up on your shirt. That always happens with cherries. You're always going to have a stain on your shirt, so don't wear white. Wear purple. That way it'll be less noticeable. But that's inevitable, but that's going to happen. But that's that sweet juice coming through. So these cherries, there are different varieties out right now. You're going to see the dark cherries like I have here. And if you're following along with me, you will have already pitted these and sliced them and chopped them up. All right. As well as the dark chocolate, you will have sliced that and chopped that up. But if we talk about the cherries and where they come from, most of the cherries are grown in Washington, and cherries in Washington State is known for that. But you can also find them in California as well. This variety of cherries is a blushing orangish pink cherry, and this came from Washington State. So you'll see these cherries like this. This cherry is actually sweeter than the dark cherry. Now, how do you know that? Okay, these cherries have a Brix reading of between about 19 and 23. The red sweet cherries are around 17. So what's a Brix? B-R-I-X is what it's called. That's a scientific term for measuring the sweetness of fruits, and you can also measure vegetables as well. So that's how we find out what the sweetness of these are. Cherries also have a tartness to them, which makes them an excellent pairing in this recipe. So not only do we have the sweet inside and the juice, we've got a little bit of tart coming from the skin. And that's why it pairs so beautifully in this recipe, because we're going to be mixing it with Greek yogurt, which is sort of acidy, but a little bit creamy. These cherries play very well with this. They're like friends. They've been around forever. They love to get together. If you also pair that with the chocolate, you're just getting an optimizing of all of these flavors coming together. And that's why this dessert has such good flavor to it. It's really optimizing everything, the full potential of all of the flavors in these. This is a really simple dessert. There's only 4 ingredients to this. We've got the yogurt, which you will have already prepared with the half and half, the dark cherries, and the chocolate. That's it. The most complicated thing about this recipe is actually putting it into the popsicle form. It's not the mixing or the preparation. But let's get started with it. All right, so this is the bowl that I just have the Greek yogurt in it, the low-fat Greek yogurt in it. This is vanilla. You could use any flavor you want. You could use a black cherry if you want. That might be spectacular. So we're just going to mix that together.
Miss Valerie, while you're mixing, we did have a question come in on, do you have any tips on how to pit a cherry without having to chop the cherry up? Say if I just want to eat the whole thing.
Well, I will tell you, I sat at the counter the other night and I just got to work. I did try it with a knife to begin with. It's a very small paring knife, but just, sort of peeling the cherry around the pit, because I don't pit a lot of the cherries. I usually just eat them and, discard the pit. But for this recipe, that's not going to be possible. Well, actually what I found was these cherries are so soft this time of year that I just took the stem off and I actually just pressed it, and the pit came out, and I just dropped the good side of the cherry into a bowl, and from that way I just chopped them up. But I know there's probably a utensil out there for removing the pit, but I just used my hands. Now, having said that, your fingers are going to be dark in color, your fingernails and your fingertips are going to be dark in color. Don't fret, it comes off. Just use some fresh lemon or lemon juice if you can. If you can, just put it in some and swish it around a little bit. You'll find the color comes right back. But it is sort of disconcerting that it looks like your hands are turning black in color, especially your nails if you're not used to that, like digging in the dirt. Okay. I'm going to add the cherries. And I'm going to add the dark chocolate. Use your favorite chocolate. If you want white chocolate in this, that would also work well. I'm just going to stir this around. It's going to change colors, become a little bit purple, which is great. It smells wonderful. It smells light and fresh. All right. Now, a couple of hints with this. I bought this, and so that's what I'm going to use to fill it. It's just a cherry, a simple popsicle form, okay? So we're just going to take the mixture and put it into the form. Fill that up, make sure you get lots of chocolate in there. And you just simply pop the form on there and place it in the freezer. It'll take about 6 hours to freeze, okay? When you take this out, you'll want to run water over this, warm water over this, and then it should pop out pretty easily. So that's one way to do this. However, there's another way. and I wanted something simpler. So I just took these small cups that I had in my cabinet, and I bought these little popsicle sticks. They're quite easy to find. And so what I did was just fill the cup with this. Like so. And then pop the stick in there. And then place that in the freezer. And then these are really easy to, this little cup actually has a little handle on it as well. But this makes it really easy pop as well. If you want it to come out, do the exact same thing. Just run some water over the outside of this and it will pop out. So I've got the finished versions of this. They're in the freezer, but so let me just pop over here and get them.
Who's made their own popsicles before? Because I have to be honest, I've never made my own popsicles. Just buy them.
This is a fun
So now
dish,
I'm interested in like who has done this before and what flavors have you made? And
yeah, then we're going to talk about how to do your own slant on this. So these have been in the freezer. Ugh, as you can tell. So that's what they look like. They're really cool. And they are so creamy. You're going to get dark chocolate. You're going to get the dark cherries in here. And the yogurt, you're going to have all these flavors dancing around in your mouth. It's really spectacular and easy to pack. Right, as usual, I think we ought to get creative with this. And you add your own flavors to this. Some of the flavors that go really, really well with cherries is almonds. So you could chop up some almonds in there and then put those in with it. That would be spectacular. Or almond extract. Cherries and almonds are a beautiful pairing. You could also try coconut. You could toast the coconut or put fresh coconut in there if you want to, or the flaked coconut. That will add a different spark, sort of a tropical feel to this. Mint extract is something else. Be sparingly with it, but mint would also be a great pairing with this. So the only other thing I did with this, I thought there'd be another way to use this, and that was to make some graham cracker sandwiches, if you will. So I let the mixture freeze just a bit, and then I spread it on a graham cracker. And I just put another graham cracker on top. I wrapped it in plastic wrap like that, and then just stuck it in the freezer. This also makes a really good snack to have if you want to have these around. So you've got a creamy center that's slowly going to melt and be really good. And of course, it's going to fall on your shirt because that's what this does. But anyway, you'll be able to enjoy that. So that's it. So we've talked about lots of fruits and vegetables that summer has to offer. And the takeaway is just go to the markets, buy fresh fruits and vegetables, use your imagination, be creative with them, and enjoy all the goodness that summer has to offer you. And go to the beach as well and have a good time, and hopefully stay safe.
well, we have one last question.
Okay.
Hopefully y'all were listening. So Miss Valerie said, what does the bricks measure? What does bricks measure? Sweetness. Yeah, I saw it coming in. Great job, y'all. Hopefully you liked our little trivia throughout, and I would get with Miss Valerie because we had so many people that knew the answers except for that one. So I guess I'll tell the answers to that one, huh?
Okay.
I'll ask you the question, Miss Valerie, and you tell them the answers.
Okay.
What 2 eye-friendly antioxidants are in corn?
One of them is gluten. The other one is Z and Zaxin. I think it's ZEANXETHIN, I believe is how it's spelled.
Yeah.
That's kind of a hard one.
It was.
The easy thing is eating the corn.
True. Someone said that's a mouthful. So some of the comments were the food looks delicious, everything. Some people are going to try it. A lot of people like to use glass containers instead of the silver pans. So lots of conversations in the chat. I did add all of the recipes in the chat. So if you did not see those on our website, you can download those from the chat today. Any other last minute questions for Ms. Valerie while we have her here? All right, let's see the finished products of everything, Ms. Valerie, and then.
Okay, let's see. Those are the popsicles. Okay. This is the corn salad, full of antioxidants. And these are our 2 lasagnas. Yay! All right. Hope everybody stays safe and healthy, and you have a great week, and don't forget to wash your hands.
Thank you all so much for joining us for our Wellness Wednesday cooking demo with Ms. Valerie. Join us next month and have some fun things. We're going to be dealing with honeybees. So tell your friends, join us. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Valerie.
Oh, we had another question
Okay.
from Amber. She said, if I was going to use frozen cherries instead of fresh, would I need to defrost before mixing everything, or could I add them frozen?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, you could do that. No, I would not defrost them. They'll be easier to cut up if they're just slightly frozen. Be careful with a knife, but they'll be easier to cut if they're slightly frozen.
Good. All right. Thanks, everyone. Y'all have a wonderful Wednesday. See y'all next month.
Thank you
Okay.
so
Bye, y'all.
much.
Thanks for the questions.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.